vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Patricia Mary, and for the next hour, I will be reading from the Saturday, Sunday, February 28th, March 1st issue of Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From the front page of Off Duty, how the small town American tavern became the place to be again. A classic American institution, once in danger of disappearing, the neighborhood tavern is being revived as a place for a good meal, a cold drink, and a sense of community. And this is by Joshua David Stein. On a recent winter night, frost sparkled in the air like cold confetti, and a warm glow spilled from the small windows of a tavern in the one stoplight village of Surgentville, New Jersey. Inside the Surgentville Inn, Sean Lawson, the town ice cream maker, sat next to Katie Klink, a retired elementary school teacher and former town clerk, and Jacqueline Hout Evans, an artist and real estate agent. At the other end of the bar, John Sheldrick, aka J.D. Fuzzy, whose show broadcasts from the radio station across the street, had come in for a quick dinner. Hot Evans nursed a New York sour with a large ice cube. She's regularly stopped into the Sargentville Inn for the last 25 years. It doesn't matter when I come in, she says. I know I'm going to know somebody. This year, as the U.S. celebrates its 250th birthday, there are no parades planned for one of the country's most quintessential institutions, the tavern, a third place between home and work where community can gather. By definition, occupying the gray area between a bar and a restaurant, taverns aren't fancy. You can drink a beer, order a burger, and linger at a tavern. No one will kick you out after 90 minutes. In recent times, taverns have faded alongside so many other relics of slow living. Thankfully, the trend is starting to reverse. Across the country, chefs are abandoning the Sisyphean task of running high end big city restaurants and returning to why and what they started cooking. Here, the harbingers of the new gold age of the old school American tavern. A tavern from the ashes. On that snowy night in New Jersey, Sean Gray surveyed the dinner crowd from behind the kitchen door. Many in the food world know Gray for his tenure as executive chef at Momofuku Co., David Chang's crown jewel, for over a decade. While working there in 2017, Gray bought a house in Surgentville and began to commute 1.5 hours to the city. Gray often hung out at the Surgentville Inn because everyone in town did. It was the town center of gravity. When it burned down in 2015, the community chipped in to rebuild. I was just a regular who would come in 2 or 3 times a week, he said. No one even knew I worked in restaurants. By 2021, Gray was burned out from the commute and was looking to hit the brakes. He quit his job, but then the chef at Surgeonville Inn left. He stepped in and was soon moonlighting in the kitchen a few days a week. In 2024, he took over full time as the executive chef. Gray serves notably less experimental cuisine than his days at Co. I joke that I use my dad's palate as a guide. There's a very good roast chicken sourced from a local farmer, a burger so delicious it remains off menu, otherwise, that's all everyone would order, a bone in pork chop, and onion rings. What he may sacrifice in culinary experimentation, he more than makes up for as a tavern keeper by tapping into a sense of community he couldn't find in the sleek kitchens of New York. There's been times when I've been here cooking, when the power has gone out, and a bunch of regulars have gone out back and started working on the generator, he says. No big deal. Once a tavern, always a tavern. Like Gray, the chef Claire DeBoer spent many years working in a cramped and coveted New York restaurant, King, which she opened with two partners in the West Village in 2016. In 2021, while at her home in the Hudson Valley with her family, she received a phone call from the owner of a historic tavern building in White Plains, New York, a whistle stop hamlet in Dutchess County. When she saw the space, she was immediately charmed. Built in 1782, the 10,000 square foot Sistine House hosts one of America's first domed ballrooms on the second floor. But De Boer fell for the kitchen, which came outfitted with a wood hearth and a wood cooking fire. It was a cook's dream, she said. Opened in 2022, Sisting House leans into the building's history as a tavern as far back as the 18th century. De Boer focuses on the kind of fare a traveler craves when coming in from the cold: venison and cherry pie, split roasted duck, cups of warming bone broth. De Boer also embraces a tavern's essential function as a community hub. Over the last 4 years, the space has begged the question: how can we fill it with life? Throughout the year, the tavern hosts crafts fairs, cooking classes, folk concerts, and an annual Easter egg hunt. In other words, just the kind of events that have always taken place within those walls. Homecoming. In 2021, chefs John Nodler and Sam Kincaid felt unmoored. Nodler's from Minnesota and Kincaid's from Wisconsin, but they moved to Philadelphia in 2012, where their restaurant, Cadence, ended up on major best of lists. We were uncertain how to propel Cadence forward, while also creating time and space for ourselves, Nodler says. After closing Cadence, they moved back west and settled in New Paltz, Wisconsin, a village about 30 miles from Madison. In October 2025, the couple opened Cantor Inn in a restored Queen Anne style building that was built in 1902. We're the fourth generation husband and wife to run a restaurant here, said Nodler. On a recent wintry night, Nodler was excited to spot two familiar guests at a table enjoying chicken schnitzel and homemade milk bread: the butcher shop owner and town blacksmith. I called them the new celebrities, he says. Something for everyone. While it certainly helps, you don't need to own a historic building to open a tavern. When Nashville area chef Julia Sylvan was looking to open her second restaurant, she chose an abandoned laundromat from 1950s on the outskirts of Sewanee in rural Tennessee. The restaurant, Judith, opened in 2025 with a clear tagline: an American tavern. A long bar in the center of the room Judith divides Judith into a casual bar area in the front and a slightly more formal dining room tucked behind. Students of the nearby University of the South frequent the bar. The professors hang out in the back. What a tavern conveys to me is that it is available for all kinds of times for all kinds of people, Sullivan said. These days, reservations are recommended, but Sullivan holds space for walk-ins. The front bar invariably buzzes with locals looking for an after-work bite, hunters and hikers emerging from the Cumberland Plateau, and even some city folk who make the 1.5 hour drive in search of a connection. I have people from Nashville tell me they run into more of their friends here than they do in the city, says Sullivan. Big city, small town feeling. City taverns had a harder time finding their modern footing. New York's White Horse Tavern, established in 1880, and Francois Tavern, site of Washington's 1783 farewell to his troops, have become so popular with tourists they more closely resemble theme parks than local watering holes. Others, like the Gramercy Tavern and the Minetta Tavern in New York and the Blue Duck Tavern in Washington, D.C., have lost their everyman appeal, becoming impossible to get into and experience to eat at. But there is hope. At Gus's Sip and Dip, a newly opened tavern in Chicago that specializes in cocktails and French dip sandwiches, co-owner Bob Brodsky offers Gust coins to regulars, which allow them to skip the line. In Brooklyn, waterfront Red Hook neighborhood, Billy Turney of Red Hook Tavern always holds a four-top and a pair of bar stools for locals who can call ahead to claim a spot. Everyone who lives in the neighborhood has my number, he says. But if you aren't a neighbor and you want that special treatment, then you just have to do what the tavern owners have done for the last 250 years. Show up and order a drink, then do it again and again until everyone there knows your name. Here's an article from the fashion page. How should your suit fit? A guide for men. Everything you need to know about 5 key elements from pant breaks to sleeve lengths. And this is by Charlie Kobrenner. A perfectly fitting suit will always be a winning look, but it's deceptively tricky to nail, since the difference between sleek and sloppy can be a matter of millimeters. We asked 3 tailors to break down the specifics of fit. Many men will buy a suit off the rack before consulting a tailor for tweak. G. O'Hunsey, who has run his tailor shop in New York's Crown Heights for more than 2 decades, notes that, in most cases, smaller adjustments are cheaper, while alterations exceeding 2, 3, or 4 inches require a more comprehensive disassembling of the jacket and come with a bigger bill. Here, the 5 elements of a just so fit. The shoulders. Keep the shoulder fit top of mind when buying off the rack. Adjustments often require structural changes that can easily eclipse $200. The jacket shoulder seam should meet the outer point of your shoulder. For a more relaxed style, half a centimeter to a centimeter off the shoulder can work, says Sam Wazen, a former celebrity fitting specialist at Giorgio Armani, who has run New York's Wazen Custom Tailor and Alteration since 2011. Jin Park, a celebrity and editorial tailor in Los Angeles, says, I think when that shoulder seams drop, it just looks sad. Also, take care to avoid the dreaded collar gap, a gapping space between the back of the shirt collar and jacket collar, and its antithesis, the collar roll, when an ill-fitting jacket just causes material to bunch behind the neck. The jacket should gently hug the neck. The chest. A jacket should button comfortably, says Wesen. When buttoned, if you see a little bit of pulling, it's too tight, he says. You want to be able to fit at least a good 3 fingers between your stomach and the button jacket, he added. Another tell that it's too tight. When buttoned, you shouldn't see any rumple under the armpits, says Wesson. A slightly too big jacket can easily be fixed, but if you're drowning in an off-the-rack design, size down. Just remember that in most cases, it's easier to make a garment smaller than bigger. You can't magically manifest extra material. The sleeves. The ideal sleeve length is a matter of personal preference within reason. Waisen likes suit jackets to end at the joint where the hand and the wrist meet. Hussey prefers the sleeves to hang a fraction of an inch longer than that to allow for more arm bending. Park, however, notes that some clients prefer a shorter sleeve to highlight jewelry or a watch. It's usually not costly to shorten a jacket sleeve or to lengthen it slightly, depending on how much extra material is tucked into the cuff. But check if your prospective jacket buttonholes are functional, says Hussey. Most of the off the rack jackets have fake buttonholes, which are easily adjusted. Functional ones can require more complicated alterations. In either case, if the sleeves are 3 inches too short, put the jacket back down, says Hussey. Equally important, how much shirt sleeve peeks out below the jacket. Wiesen calls to a half to 3/4 of an inch very classy. Park, who favors a less classical style, allows up to 3/4 of an inch. Just please don't let the whole cuff show. The jacket length. When it comes down to professional preference, Hussey offered a general guideline. Call it a rule of thumb. When your arms are by your side, the jacket hem should fall somewhere between your thumb's first base and a second knuckle. The pant break. Waisen and Hussey agree that a slight break when the pants kiss the top of the shoes just enough to start breaking or creasing is generally a good bet. You can also go longer. On wider pants, a fuller break delivers old school stylishness. Boots guy, extra length provides a little allowance, says Hussey, ensuring the hem falls on the toe of the boot. We're listening to the reading of articles and features from Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From the style page, 9 craft kits to help lower your screen time. Forget making a simple scarf. A wave of stylish DIY kits offers customized sweaters and bags. And this is by Rachel Perry. It's only February, and going analog to escape your screens has emerged as one of the year's defining trends. If completely unplugged isn't realistic, hands on hobbies like knitting, crocheting, or needlepoint are a good middle ground. The rhythm of working with yarn or thread brings a welcome sense of focus and calm. Fashion brands now offer chic kits to help you make a sweater or personalized kit bag, which feels more compelling than your standard homespun scarf ever did. Whether you're a seasoned pro or simply craft conscious, here are 9 kits to help you put down your phone and start working. A statement sweater. While there are countless sweater patterns to try, this collaboration between London-based fashion brand Damson Matter and craft company Wool and the Gang stands out. It's not exactly beginner level, but it's rated easy. The customizable striped sequence makes a project a choose your own adventure. A tailored baklava for the sewist ready to adventure beyond elastic waist and everyday totes, this woven kit offers an offbeat challenge. A crocheted catch-all. The sturdy rhythmic stitch pattern comes together quickly and works as well as the structured basket for things like toiletries or produce. And it's from We Are Knitters whole box basket, and the kit is $80. The Glory Allen woven baklavaka DIY kit is $32. And the Damson Matter with wool and the Gang Odette sweater, which is an easy knitting kit, it sells for $133. And all these kits come with the directions plus all the materials you need. The sturdy crocheted catch-alls. The systematic stitch pattern comes together quickly and works well as a structured basket. And the Stitch Up Kit Sardine Tin Embroidery Kit, it sells for $40. A tin stitch, plateful, the mini sardine kit embroidery kit is well suited to beginners and comes completely with thread, needles, and a wooden hoop. Now here's a Fendi baguette handbag with embroidery kit. This is a little pricey at $3,890. A designer DIY. While a vintage bag feels one of a kind, there's nothing quite as personal as a Fendi baguette you embroider yourself. Working on a piece of this caliber and this pricey can feel high stakes, so it's not the ideal proving ground for absolute beginners. A charm party, that's assembled with friends. The party ready pack of carabiners and colorful beads from Ada Ready turns jewelry making into a social activity. Again, this is very pricey at $2,000, and it's the Aiden Raytier, Reyter, bag charm party pack preset. The printed project. This is the Last Chance Textile Cano Type Bandana Kit, and it sells for $59. A printed project. Make your own scarf using canotype and early photographic process, and known better as sun printing. Part chemistry experiment, part art project. It turns light and a few well-placed leaves onto something abstract and unique. A city stitch tote. Chasing Threads DIY embroidery stitch your city NYC tote bag, and it sells for $45 at the MoMA Design Store. It's a customized canvas carryall with New York motifs. The tote comes printed with 10 outlines from a pigeon to the Empire State Building. The reverse is covered in faux suede, giving the souvenir a polished finish. Another one is the Attilo Kunci Starter Kit. It sells for $85. It's a pink kit. The Golden Repair. Try your hand at kintsugi. Kintsugi. The century-old Japanese practice of mending broken ceramics with lacquer dusted in gold, treating cracks not as flaws but as a part of a history's object. This starter kit supplies the essential materials, including real lacquer. All you need is something broken. From the Life and Style page, $28 toothpaste, $14 dental floss. Dental products get the luxury treatment. Brands are trying to elevate brushing and flossing from a tedious chore to an indulgent ritual. Do fancy formulas and sleek packaging make for healthier teeth? 5 finds to test with expert insight. And this is by Nora Copeland-Flocker. Anti-aging face serum now goes for over $500, and grocery aisles are lined with $15 glass bottles of oat milk. So it's hardly a shock that pearly whites are getting the luxury treatment too. In the past few years, mouthwash in shapely, perfume like bottles and dental floss in gleaming canisters have hit shelves. When patients are already investing in premium skincare, supplements, and wellness routines, it feels natural for oral care to follow, says Dr. Michael Wee, a, a cosmetic and restorative dentist in Manhattan. This crop of design forward oral care brands often features clear formulas and aims to elevate brushing and flossing from a tedious chore to an indulgent ritual. Here are 5 luxury finds to try with expert insight into the ingredients behind them. A pricey toothpaste. Retavin Natural Toothpaste. It sells for $17. Founded in 2016 by dentist Dr. Gary Cotola, Retravin, it's spelled Revittin, specializes in all natural toothpaste. The $17 toothpaste comes in citrus or mint. Some ingredients, like cranberry seed oil, sound like they've been ripped from the menu of an artisanal frozen yogurt shop. Dr. Vanessa Peterson, an orthodontist in Rancho Camacho, California, appreciates that the toothpaste skips sodium lauryl sulfate, an ingredient that she says can contribute to irritation or allergies in some patients. She recommends Retavin to patients and her children use it. A pricier toothpaste, which is Agent Natural Holy, HOLI, Pearly Whites Probiotic Whitening Toothpaste, and that sells for $28 a tube. After starting out with clean, natural deodorant, Agent Nature founder Gina Covello expanded into other hygiene products, including oral care. Packaged in a sort of sleek white tube, you're expected to find squirting premium hand cream. The Los Angeles brand's $28 toothpaste features ingredients such as manuka honey and coconut oil, plus pearl powder made by grinding real pearls for gentle brightening. We highlighted the paste clean formation, but he cautioned patients with sensitive teeth or enamel erosion against using whitening toothpaste in general. The cinnamon flavor reminds us, say it quietly, a fancier version of Fireball's cinnamon whiskey shots. Mouthwash with Bite, Bite. Boca Restore mouthwash tablets, and they sell for $20, and it looks like you get 90 tablets. Think of these mouthwash tablets as TSA friendly alternative to fluorescent liquid rinses. In flavors including a particularly strong citrus mint, the tablets are activated by saliva. No water needed. How it works. Chew a tablet to create a foamy mouthwash. Swish, spit. It feels a little strange, but it leaves the mouth refreshed. We noted the tablet's lack of alcohol, a common ingredient in mouthwash that can dry out the mouth and disrupt the oral microbiome balance, he says. Here's the Eau de mouthwash, and it sells for about $33, and it's Blue Forever mouthwash. Alas, this gorgeous bottle does not contain French perfume, but mouthwash. Christopher Vural founded the Stockholm-based luxury oral hygiene brand after a stroke left him partially paralyzed and hypersensitivity to taste and smell. During his rehabilitation, finding existing dental products harsh and synthetic, he set out to reimagine oral care as a meaningful self care ritual. Roughly $33, this fresh mouthwash has notes of licorice, lime, and peppermint and contains chamomile extract. Here's the fancy floss. Officine Universal Bully Peppermint Dental Floss and sells for about $14. Fancy floss housed in a metallic dispenser embellished with French text. This is a sophisticated Parisian cousin to drugstore dental floss, the work of famously styled apothecary Officinal Universal Bully, Bully. The mint flavored floss feels sturdy but slips easily between teeth. Most strikingly, it's black. Designed for daily use, it's intended for post brushing and pre mouthwash. If patients floss more regularly, that is a positive outcome, says we. You're listening to the reading of articles and features from Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From the music page, what you think about late career Elvis is wrong. Restored concert footage in Baz Luhrmann's new documentary challenges the idea that the king was washed up in the 1970s. And this is by Elias Light. For those who think of late career Elvis Presley as only a plump has-been, a gaudy Las Vegas crooner slinging schlock in the 1970s, Baz Luhrmann's new movie is a bracing corrective. Epic Elvis Presley in Concert, which features live performances footage from 1970s and 1972, presents a man as a human dynamite, oozing charisma from the pouty face as he attacks songs from his own catalog and hits from other performers. Iconic artists, particularly the ones that live in very rarefied air towards the end of their life, becomes ossified, says Luhrmann, who previously co-wrote and directed Elvis, a 2022 biopic starring Austin Butler as Presley. Rust forms around them. The concert sequence in Epic scrapes that rust away with a flourish. Viewers who didn't give a rat's ass about Presley or thought of him primarily as a Halloween costume can now have a totally different relationship with him, says Lieberman. The movie was stitched together from film hauled out of a storage facility, a former salt mine in Kansas. Digitalizing it and synchronizing it with audio was an arduous slog. It's taken us many, many years to get the amazing footage out of the salt mines, Joel Weinshanker, managing partner of Elvis Presley Enterprise, said in a statement. Even so, Luhrmann calls Epic the most enjoyable thing I've ever made. And it's spelled E-P, capital E, capital P, little I, capital C. He usually writes the movie he directs. This time around, he didn't have to scribble a single word. Plus, he joked, our lead actor was pretty talented. Epic follows Presley as he blazes through classics including Little Sister, slyly asserting his influence in rock by segueing into the Beatles at back. He plays an urgent rendition of Tony Joe White's Polk Salad Annie, where the bass hammers with punk-like aggression. For Justin Gosman, who co-hosts TCB Cast, a podcast devoted to Presley. One of the movie's triumphs is that it makes the singer's artistic process legible and accessible to everyone. You see the band watching him. You see him cueing them. You see the playfulness, the spontaneity, the fan reaction, and his reaction to them, Gosman continued. He drove 5 hours to catch the movie opening in Denver in IMAX. Weinshanker hopes that tens of millions of people will get to see this very personal side of Elvis. True diehards have been trying to remind listeners about this version of the star for decades. Elvis Presley may well be the most written about figure of our time. Peter Garmelnik wrote near the beginning of Careless Love, the unmaking of Elvis Presley, his second book about the singer. He is also, in many ways, the most misunderstood. When Ernest Jorgensen, an archivist who has worked with the Presley estate since 1988, first met Garlnick, he recalled asking him, "How do we get rid of tabloid Elvis?" It's easy to adore the star in the mid to late 1950s when he's young and svelte, scandalizing and delighting America with his wiggly hips, popularizing a new sound dubbed rock and roll. He was pulled off course by a stint in the Army and a series of formulaic movies, but started to claw his way back into pop mainstream with a 1968 televised concert known as the Comeback Special. The following year, he sounded majestic on a single, Suspicious Minds, and on the album From Elvis to Memphis, surrounded by sumptuous strings and a rugged rhythmic system section. Presley also embarked on a 4-week residency in Las Vegas where he became a fixture. His first run of shows grossed 1.5 million, according to Garonak's book, making him the most successful act in the city's history at the time. But Las Vegas was where cool went to die, especially in the era of the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin. It wasn't hip to like Elvis at the time, Jorgensen said. He was old hat, and Las Vegas was seen as the graveyard of the stars. Presley's health started to break down in 1973. Garlnick's chapter on this year is simply titled Free Fall. Many listeners' last memory of the singer before his death in 1977 was him being overweight, sweating in the jumpsuits and kind of going through the motions, says John Scheinfeld, who directed the documentary Reinventing Elvis, the 68 comeback. But that's not what he had been, Scheinfeld emphasized. When he was totally engaged, when he really cared, the work was sensational. From the design page, how to design a greenhouse on 3 different budgets. Whether you're ready to spend $350,000 or $2,500, or conservatory can be both garden and retreat. This is by Christina Pauletto. For gardeners, a greenhouse is the ultimate luxury, offering a head start on spring even when snow coats the ground. But many homeowners now want their glass walled rooms to do more than grow plants. Today's most creative take, which includes standalone greenhouses and conservatories attached to the main house, double as places to read, relax, or entertain, surrounded by year round greenery. That type of double duty requires careful planning from the start, designers say, since choice about installation, environmental controls, and glazing can quickly push costs higher and are difficult to reverse later. At 3 different budgets, these light filled spaces support thriving plants while serving as a peaceful escape. So here is the 6-figure sanctuary. When a fire razed their home in Ripon, Wisconsin, Jackie and Chuck Nelson, who run a commercial painting business, reimagined the space formerly occupied by a musing room and an office into a Victorian Gothic style conservatory. Jackie was passionate about growing some of her favorite tropical plants from Florida, where she's from. Midwest winters be damned. The only way to grow orchids in Wisconsin is indoors, she said. They turned to Jim Hewitt, a master gardener and owner of Minneapolis design built firm Conservatories Craftsman. For the 14 by 20-foot climate controlled space, Hewitt wrapped a steel structure in mahogany to create a room that felt both warm and welcoming. Decorative munits on the insulated windows make the panels look like they're crafted from individual pieces of glass. So what they did is break the glass up with wood to make smaller panels and decorated the top parts in swervy, curvy wood. In place of the former chimney, the couple opted for a mahogany wrapped gas fireplace, which sits low, allowing for regular sightings of wild ducks and birds. It's a place to watch the sun rise, especially on cold mornings while sitting in front of the fireplace with our pets and a delicious hot cup of coffee, says Jackie. The Nelson said the whole project cost between $350,000 and $450,000. The orchids are thriving and the space is made for a great backdrop for their daughter's wedding photos. A more modest Tennessee retreat. If you don't want to drop six figures for a garden sanctuary, build your own kits from greenhouse companies like Jansen's and Elton can be had for a low five figures. Looking to grow herbs, flowers, and a lemon tree on her Tennessee property, designer and antique curator Lauren Sullivan opted for a 13 by 20 foot Victorian lodge model from UK's Hartley Botanic. While Sullivan's didn't disclose the price, Christina Drury, a garden and landscape designer, said she came across small Hartley botanic greenhouses in her work that go for about $40,000. Features like temperature regulating roof vents and roller blinds keep space, the space functioning year round. Sullivan brings in portable heaters in the winter. Sullivan sourced and styled the interior decorative material herself. Turned pavers exuded a checkerboard feel at the entrance, while vintage 1900 Spanish tile found at First Dibs, an online marketplace, extend the playful pattern indoors. Sullivan often goes to the space to relax. There's something incredibly grounding about being surrounded by glass, greenery, and natural light, Sullivan said. The light shifts throughout the day and across seasons, keeping the space feeling alive. A low cost labor of love. While Christina Drury, the gardener and landscape designer, and her husband Kodiak received the windfall of original Douglas fir single pane windows from a neighbor, they took it as a sign to put dreams for a greenhouse in motion. They chose the sunniest spot on the flattest part of their 2 acre in Marin County, California, for the 9 by 21-foot space. The couple worked together to remove brush, grade the land, and build 2 retaining walls. Kodiak milled the lumber for the greenhouse from a redwood tree on the property. In all, the project cost around $2,500. The couple takes a more conventional approach to the greenhouse, using it as a garden workshop year round, but it gets especially busy in the spring. In March, Christina seeds will seed brockuses like kale, broccoli, and cabbage, along with onions and leeks. Soon she hopes her daughter will join in the work. I have a feeling it will be one of her favorite places, as it is mine, she says. There is a tiny harvest basket and a little watering can waiting for her. An article from the Rumble Seat by Dan Neal. A Mazda stays relevant by staying the course. Embracing serene interiors and analog controls, the Mazda CX-50 offers a friendly driver environment for tech-weary consumers. Again, by Dan Neal. The 2026 Mazda CX-50 reminds me of T.S. Eliot's poem, Burnt Norton. What that has been and what it has been point to one end, which is always present because I'm classy. Introduced for model year 2023, the CX50 is a relatively new nameplate, but it feels like it's been around forever. The five-seat compact SUV is built on the same fourth-generation platform as the erstwhile Mazda CX-3, Mazda CX-30, and the outgoing CX-5, the cleverly named small product group platform dating from 2019. The vibe inside, serene, understated, urban, embracing Zen-centric design principle and mass class materials, hasn't and doesn't change much from car to car, nor do the furnishings. The damp action rotary control between the front seat dates to the late Cretaceous theory. But a funny thing, social culturally, happened on Mazda's ways to obsolescence. Either because of the principle or the expedience, Mazda's product planners never fully embraced the kind of large center touchscreens that dominate the dashboards of most new cars. Neither did Mazda's abandon conventional switches, rotary knobs, and pedals, even as other companies were converting to captative and haptic controls. Not sure what that is. As the backlash against touchscreen and virtualized controls gathered strength in the past decade, Mazda became increasingly valued for their friendlier and more familiar driver environment. What was a liability has become a saving grace among car buyers sick of screens. In arguably the most competitive vehicle segment, the CX50 sales jumps 35% to 110,345. You think it have might have been the switches? Under the hood, you'll find a similarly storied power plant. Mazda's Skyactiv G 2.5 liter four-cylinder gas engine, a non-turbo version, is 187 horsepower. Serves as a standard issue engine paired with a six-speed automatic transmission. In our maximally equipped CX50 Turbo Premium Plus, which is tested, it sells for $45,000. The 2.5 liter gets a turbocharger and a big bump in power. How big a bump depends on you. On regular gas at 87 octane, Mazda says the output comes to 227 horsepower and 310 pounds per square foot. But let's say you're having date night with your car and you want to make it feel pretty. If you put high test, 93 octane in the tank, the output raises to 256 horsepower, roughly 13 more power at about 30 higher fuel costs nationwide. May I order you a pine tree air freshener, my dear? Mazda is one of the few manufacturers that publish separate performance specs depending on fuel grade. While I understand some consumers might feel cheated of power or coerced into buying the more expensive fuel, I propose another attitude. Owners should feel free to use the cheaper fuel for daily driving when the difference is maximum output is in most cases unobservable, and save the high test for special occasions like towing, a 3,500 pound capacity, or rushing your wife to the birthing center. You may wonder how the CX50 differs from the outgoing 2025 CX5. It doesn't much. The CX50, built in Alabama for the U.S. market, is proffered as a weekender's version of the CX5 with higher ground clearance, 8.5 inches in turbo models, and a lower roofline. The CX50 bodywork is also a bit wider between the wheel arches contributing to the visually planted and more powerful stance. Clutched in the hollows of our Turbo Premium Plus were 20-inch wheels wrapped around 45 series all-season tires, fresh from the oven. The cargo capacity is roughly equivalent. The CX50 encloses 31.4 cubic feet behind the second row seats. With the second row seat backs folded, shout out to the remote seat backs released in the cargo hold, the space expands to 56.3 cubic feet. Both numbers are about average for the segment, which includes Honda's CR-V, Subaru's Forester, and Toyota's RAV4. Legends all. Speaking of Toyota, one of the model year's 2025, a hybrid powertrain using Toyota's Watchworks is available. For additional $4,850, CX50 buyers can opt for the naturally aspired 2.5-liter four-cylinder gas engine, 3 electric motors, continuously variable transmission, and a hybrid all-wheel drive using an independent rear traction motor. The CX50 hybrid earns an estimated 38 miles per gallon combined, a damn sight better than our car's observed consumption, hovering in the low 20s. The hybrid and non-turbo variants are in no particular hurry. Car and Driver clocked the non-turbo version in 8.4 seconds from 0 to 60 miles an hour. The hybrid is nearly a full second quicker, 7.6 seconds, says Car and Driver, but still a bit soft for LA traffic. The hybrid's output is held to 219 horsepower and 163 pounds per square foot. Pitted against the vehicle heavier by 100 pounds, just how far away is that birthing clinic? As for our fully flexed Turbo Premium Plus, there were boosts aplenty when it was on the boil. Getting around the inevitable low-speed turbo lag requires keeping the revs up. Sport mode includes a rev holding function in the transmitted logic, if you care to indulge. Car and Driver coached a 6.4-second 0 to 60 miles per hour time out of the turbo. No surprise, the CX50 has some handles with taunt body control and keen line tracing in transient cornering and braking. The maneuvering is actually quite smart for a drummy little compact with about 60% of its weight over the front wheels and a torsion beam rear axle. The big and broad tires do make some noise while they're at it. The higher unsprung mass also makes the ride quality a bit more tympanic than otherwise. I don't want you to think the CX50 has no screens. It has a small, tasteful display centered atop the handsomely upholstered dash console. Honestly, the suture-like stitching and contrasting color, ah, such greatness. Interesting, the screen is displaying only for functions residents in the car, but once wireless connection with Apple Play Car or Android Auto, it becomes a touchscreen, in which case it's really hard to reach. How long can Mazda's cabin design stay in its weird Aleuthian future past, a refuge for tech-weary and screened out? Well, we'll find out. The next generation CX5 has a conspicuous large LCD touchscreen amidships. The steering wheel incorporates a variety of hepatic capitizing whatevers. The 2026 Mazda CX50 Turbo Premium Plus. It's priced as tested as $45,215. Fuel economy is 23, 29, 25 miles per gallon, city, highway, and combined. From the finance page, bank stocks suffer another plunge on credit and AI fears. And this is by Ben Glickman. A chorus of concerns about AI and risky lending has bank investors spooked. Shares in big lenders and investment banking banks sold off sharply Friday after new credit issues emerged and fears of a broader economic implication from artificial intelligence weighed on investors. Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo all closed down more than 4%, while Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley both fell 6%. JP Morgan Chase, the biggest U.S. bank, lost 2%. The KBW Nasdaq Bank fell 4.8% in largest one-day drop since last April tariffs turmoil. The country's largest lenders tend to be a proxy for investors' belief about the economy. The sell off appeared to be a continuation of AI related concerns that have roiled markets in recent weeks. Payment company blocks divisions to lay off 40% of its staff thanks to AI gains further fueled the belief that technological advancements could lead to broad job losses. That came on the heels of a report earlier this week that had investors worried about dramatic economic and job market implications of AI. Consumer lenders more vulnerable during economic recessions were among the worst performers Friday, including American Express, Capital One, and Synchronized Financials. Wobbling confidence in private credit lenders have further jolted the financial sector. Several high-profile loan losses last year spurred a recent rise in redemption requests from individual investors in private lending vehicles. On Friday, two publicly traded funds from private lenders said they were cutting their dividends, further adding to concerns. Investors have reached sharply to other signs more losses could be coming. They found a new example this week in the collapsed UK financing company Market Financial Solutions. Market Financial Solutions offered developers and wealthy investors bridge loans on companies in London and elsewhere in the UK, a specialty market that lets property purchasers act fast before arranging long-term funding. Investment vehicles set up to make the loans more funded by at least half a dozen global banks and assessment managers. But in recent months, the payments stopped going into the designated accounts for the investment vehicles, according to documents in London's business court. Two of the investment vehicles entered insolvency proceedings this year. Jeffries slid 9% and Barclays fell 4% on worries that the collateral on loans they made to the company. Weakness in tech stocks and more conservative lending could also dampen what was expected to be a banner year for mergers and acquisitions and initial public offerings, says Poonwala, an analyst at the Bank of America's Merrill Lynch. You came in with a relatively optimistic outlook for the year, and now investors are running into risk factors that weren't necessarily at the top of their list, she says. Fear begets fear. You've been listening to the reading of articles and features from Saturday, Sunday, February 28th, March 1st, issue of Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal. We read from Off Duty every Saturday at 6 p.m. Your reader has been Patricia Mary. God bless and be safe out there, and don't worry about the stock market. Whoa.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have Harper's Magazine. At 8 o'clock, we have Sports Illustrated. At 9 o'clock, we have The Athletic, a section of the New York Times. Stay with us for these readings and more through the rest of the evening. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print